Welcome to Learn to Live Stress-Free. This is Christine Wright with Dr. Robert Wright Jr. of www.stressfreenow.info. Our featured guest today is Diane Diresta, President of Diresta Communications Incorporated. Diane is an expert in the mindset and skill set of presentations that forward careers. As an executive speech coach and international professional speaker, she works with leaders to reduce speaking anxiety and to craft and deliver presentations that get results. Her communication strategies result in increasing confidence and credibility, getting promoted, and inspiring teams. Her book, Knockout Presentations, is an Amazon category bestseller. Diane holds a master's degree from Columbia University, is trained in NLP and hypnosis, and graduated from Coach U. She's been featured on CNN, Fox 5, and WPIX-TV, and quoted in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times. Diane media-trained sports and entertainment celebrities from the NBA, WNBA, and USGA. She is past president of the New York City chapter of the National Speakers Association and on the advisory board of Enterprising Women magazine. Diane's latest best-selling book is entitled Give Fear the Finger, How to Knock Out Fear of Public Speaking. Diane is also the author of a recently widely read article in Forbes magazine entitled Selling to the C-Suite. Welcome, Diane.
Thanks, Christine. It's great to be here. And hi, Bob.
Yes, good morning, Diane. It's great to have you.
Well, I'm so thrilled to be here with both of you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Can I make a disclaimer before we begin? Yes. I want your listeners to know that even though my book is called Give Fear the Finger, I have never given anyone the finger in my life, and I'm from New York.
Okay, great, and I'm sure they will get that, and I hope they will take a look at your book. Diane, what led you to the work that you are currently doing?
Well, I was trained as a speech pathologist and worked in the school system for about 8 years, and then made a career change to corporate training, and then left there to start my own business. So today, Diresta Communications focuses in 3 areas, which is public speaking presentation, interpersonal communication, and media training. And I have to say that what I've seen over the years is an increase in the need for presentation skills and speaking. And in fact, when I speak to audiences, because I'm also a keynote speaker as well as an executive speech coach, I tell people that today, more than ever before, your success depends on how well you present yourself, your message, and your value, and that speaking is the new competitive advantage because everything has become commoditized. So what separates you from somebody else is your presentation. So it is a vital skill, a leadership skill, a marketing skill. We all need it.
Wonderful, Diane. Thank you for that. My next question is something that I've been thinking about. How prevalent is the fear of speaking in public, and why are so many people affected by this fear?
Well, I get this question a lot, so I did some digging for some statistics, and I looked up the National Institute of Mental Health as of 2013, and they said that 5.3 million Americans suffer from some kind of social phobia. And when it comes to speaking anxiety, it was 74% of people. And the way it worked with men and women, 75% of women and 73% of men had a speaking anxiety. And I have to say that's pretty consistent with what I find. I always say to audiences, there are 2 equalizers in life: money and public speaking. So I don't think men or women have a handle or an advantage on each other. They're pretty much equally afraid. And why is that? Well, when I wrote my first book, Knockout Presentations, I did some informal research, and I asked people why they were afraid. And they would say things like, well, all eyes are on me. I don't like being the center of attention. What if I lose my train of thought or I trip? And when I analyzed the responses, it came down to one basic thing, and that was fear of humiliation. And sometimes you can trace that to childhood. There was one woman I worked with who realized that her math teacher embarrassed her in front of the class in 7th grade, and that's what built up this fear or anxiety of speaking. But here's the good news. Anybody can be effective, and confidence is a skill that can be learned. By the way, the reason this is so important is because new research on confidence shows that confidence trumps competence. That means people who are going to be successful will be more successful than the people who are as competent if they have more confidence. So we all need to be more effective in the way we present ourselves.
That's incredible, Diane.
Isn't it amazing? So, we've learned study hard, learn more, be better than everyone else. But the truth is, it's perception. And if you present yourself in a confident way and you have the basic skills, you're probably going to bypass the person who knows more than you but can't convey that. And I see this all the time in corporate America, which is where I spend most of my time.
You mentioned something, Diane, that strikes home to me. The fear, originating when you said in your research you looked up, why does this happen? Where does this come from? And as someone who has been an educator and trainer, that there is this common thread of, I too taught in the elementary and the high school, and I've seen that fear that starts early on in life, and we carry it through. And I think it's interesting that when you mention how important public speaking is to each and every one of us in our lives and in our careers, connecting this to confidence is really genius, and that this can be learned. So what are your best practices? You and Bob, studied NLP together, and you're trained in hypnosis. What are these practices that you incorporate in your service to help people overcome this?
Christine, this is why I wrote the ebook, Give Fear the Finger, and I only charge $2.99 for it because I want to get this out in the world. There's no reason for people to be afraid. The techniques are not hard, but implementing them takes some practice. And there are two areas. It's mindset and skill set, and I work with both of them. And actually, the title of the book, Give Fear the Finger, is not what you think. There's actually an acupressure point on one of the fingers that when you press it, it will short-circuit anxiety. And I'm not going to tell you how to do that. They'll have to read the book. So it's a double entendre. But there are a number of techniques in the book, and there are 4 categories. There are physical techniques, there are mental techniques, there are chemical techniques, and there are behavioral techniques. But if I had to boil it down to one thing, I would say breath. When you learn how to focus on the breath, that's going to slow down your racing heart and your physiology. And here's what I've discovered. Confident speakers live in the present. Nervous speakers live in the future because they're imagining all the negative things that can go wrong. I'm going to trip. I can't wait till this is over. They're going to hate me. And what you need to do is focus on the breath because that brings you back to the here and now. And it gives you a point where you can slow down and focus. Here's what I say about people who are extremely nervous. Get over yourself. When you're being nervous, it's self-centeredness. It's all about me, myself, and I. Put your focus on the audience. They're nervous too. What can you do? What can you say to make them feel more comfortable? Have a conversation. And I'll give you one tip right now. If you're extremely nervous in the beginning, which is the hardest part for all of us, start with a question. Because when you start with a question and someone has to answer, it takes the focus off of you, it puts it on the audience, it gives you time to breathe and to collect your thoughts. And now you have a relationship. That's the key. You want to be connected. And when we're talking one-on-one, we're not nervous. So make your group a one-on-one experience. So there are tons of examples, and what I've put in there are links to videos and to resources and techniques so that anybody can use them.
That's excellent. Sounds really like something to have for everyone to have in their library. Certainly the idea of
toolbox.
Yes, of thinking of it as a one-on-one conversation would be very helpful for many people. Because usually just the fact of being on stage, the first time someone's up in front of a large room, they're thinking, oh my goodness. And
exactly. We give too much power to the audience. Here's the truth, Christine, that the audience is on your side. They're not wanting you to fail, because think about what it sounds like when a singer hits a bad note. You cringe. You want the speaker to succeed. You want the performer to succeed. So know that, and also know that you have a right to be there. The reason you're there is you have something that audience wants, whether it's knowledge, information, an idea, or even entertainment. You're there for a reason. So own that. You have the right to be there.
Very true, and as the audience came for just that purpose. Now,
right.
How important is speaking confidently in today's marketplace?
It's critical. It's so vital, much more so today than when I first started out in the business, because as I mentioned earlier, everything has accelerated. Everything's become a commodity. And, in my parents' generation, if you wanted a job, you went into a personal agency and you filled out an application. Today, we all have to be marketers. We need to know how to sell ourselves and our value. And so that's why it's so important. We need to be able to network and to talk about ourselves and what we do effectively. So here's the mistake. People say that they're not public speakers because they're not on a stage in front of 100 people. To those people, I say, do you leave voicemails? That's public speaking. And the way you leave that voicemail determines whether you get a call back. Do you give updates at meetings? That's public speaking. Do you try to convince your boss for a raise? That's public speaking. We all need to have this skill, and it's a vital leadership skill today.
As you say that, I realize just how true that is, because in every single aspect of our lives, we're presenting ourselves in some way. So it makes sense for each and every one of us to feel confident speaking.
Absolutely. And as I said before, the research is showing confidence trumps competence. So we all need to learn what is that. And when I work with people, I break it down and I show them this is what confidence looks like, this is what confidence sounds like, and this is how you speak the language of confidence.
Wonderful.
So for $2.99, you can go buy an ebook and learn how to be confident.
That's really good. Thank you. Diane, I have been fascinated by the clarity of your most recent article in Forbes magazine, which basically is talking about how to sell to the C-suite, to CEOs and people at the CEO presidential level. And what I'd like you to talk about is to elaborate on the most effective ways to communicate confidently with the C-level executives, which many people may not be aware of how critical it is to do the things that you mentioned in the Forbes article. Could you tell our audience about that?
Sure, and thank you. I wrote that article because as I've been working in corporations, I would get complaints from managers who would say, my people present well to me, but then when they go into senior management, they can't handle it. They derail, and then I have to be the one who always speaks, and they can't advance. They're too dependent on me. And so what I observed is that the big issue is they don't know how to get into the mindset of a C-level executive. And so I went right to the horse's mouth and I interviewed them. And basically, they care about three things. What's your idea? How much is it going to cost? And what kind of return are we going to get? And then everything else is a conversation. And if they're interested, they'll continue to ask questions. The mistake people make is they go in there with a story. They don't want to hear your backstory. They don't want to know how you got there. They don't want all the details. If they're interested, they will then ask you. But you really have to understand that they don't have a lot of time, and they need the information quickly, and it needs to be very succinct, very concise. And that is the most important thing about speaking to the C-suite. What do they care about? They care about the big picture. You need to give them the ideas at a 30,000-foot perspective, not at the perspective where you are. So you need to speak their language. And if you want to read specifically what they said, you can go to Forbes.com and write in Selling to the C-Suite, Diane Diresta, and that article will come up. I interviewed a chief marketing officer, a chief information officer, a CEO, and also a consultant who works exclusively with CEOs, and it's very interesting to hear what they had to say.
Yes, Diane. One of the CEOs that you interviewed, in the article, he mentioned one of the most important things is to not waste their time and how to be direct and concise. So could you repeat again for our audience, you said that there are 3 things that should be in the forefront of your mind when talking to a C-level person. You said you started with what's your idea, and then what are the other 2 items?
What's it going to cost? And that could be money or time. And what's the return I'm going to get? Because it's all about their business. Why would they be interested? You need to sell the value. So you need to be, first of all, very clear about your idea, not go into too much detail, but really get into, here's what it is. Here are the benefits, A, B, and C. We'll get this kind of return on it, and this is what our investment is. And that's the overview. That's the 30,000-foot level. And by the way, it's completely understandable that you would be nervous going in to that level. Here's the thing about fear of speaking. It's situational. So even though I do this for a living and I'm generally not nervous, if I were on the main stage of the National Speakers Association convention, I would be nervous. So what effective speakers do, or confident speakers do, is they know how to manage and channel their nerves. It doesn't mean that you never feel any anxiety for the rest of your life. But here's the good news. You can manage it. I worked with a law student who was ready to drop out of school because she was so nervous about speaking in class. She not only gave her presentations, but she graduated with honors. I had a business owner who would get nervous networking, and she'd start stumbling over her words. I worked with her, and then after 3 sessions, she was able to present herself with confidence. So this can be overcome. It can be learned. It's a skill. That is the good news. Each person here today listening to this can be a confident speaker. It's not a gift. It's not a talent. It's a skill.
Wonderful, Diane. Just to end on, because you said so many key things in that Forbes article, one of the things that captured my attention and resonated with me so strongly was the statement about zeroing in on the C-suite level executives' pain points. Could you talk about how, when you're approaching the C-suite, how would you know exactly what their pain points so that you can, zero right in on those? I thought that was a great phrase.
You would know their pain points by doing the research. What do they care about? What are they grappling with now? What's keeping them up at night? If you go in there and you don't know that, then you're going to be speaking to the wind, so to speak. You need to talk their language. So what are they concerned about? Is it a lack of morale right now in the company? Then that's what you address. And you go in and lead with that and let them know that you understand that that's the big issue and that you have a solution for that. If their concern is, the dropping stock price or, a lack of customer service, you address that and then you talk about what your solution is. But if you're just talking about something generic and it doesn't resonate with what their concerns are, you won't be successful. So it involves a lot of homework up front, talking to people who know them, reading company literature, talking to anybody who can be a resource or a mentor to you, talking to your immediate supervisor if you're going in there.
Thank you, Diane. This is just extraordinary expertise that you're sharing, skill born from years and years of experience. Both Bob and
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We really keyed into, as you said, these are skills that can be learned. And we just really enjoyed our interview. Diane, I say this to many guests, and it's true every single time. It's true with you. Where and when and how can we work with you and learn more? I'm ready to sign up for your next workshop.
All right. Well, you can go to my website, Diresta.com. That's D as in David, I-R-E, S as in Sam, T as in Thomas, A, Diresta.com. And you'll find a free newsletter and a free 7-part audio course, 7 Deadly Mistakes Speakers Make. You can go to Amazon.com and you can look for Give Fear the Finger, and you will find that there as an ebook. And I also have another site, SpeechMakerSite.com, that gives you a template for crafting an informational or a persuasive speech.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So, listeners, you can reach Diane at diresta.com. That's DIRESTA.com, or speechmakersite.com. That's speechmakersite, SITE.com. And you can get her books, Knockout Presentations and Give Fear the Finger, How to Knock Out Fear of Public Speaking, on Amazon. And Diane, we just want to thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine and Bob, for having me. It's been great.
Diane, I wanted to just wrap up here, Diane, and ask you this question. What key thought or idea would you like our audience to take away from today's broadcast?
The main idea is that public speaking is a vital leadership skill. You need to have this skill more than ever before, no matter what level you're at. And the good news is confidence can be learned. It's a skill. And every person here has the ability to give fear the finger. So go do it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Diane, I want to thank you for giving our audience such an interesting and insightful look at ways to overcome their fears of public speaking. And I want to thank our audience for listening, and be sure that you enjoy the rest of your day and evening. For Christine Wright, this is Dr. Robert Wright of www.stressfreenow.info. Until next time, be safe and be well.